Hey, second grade learners. Today we are talking all about the structure of a story, the structure of a fiction story, what fiction stories usually look like. So here is our I am learning statement. It says, I am learning that stories have a beginning, a series of events, a high point, and an ending. So let's stop and talk about these colored words. The beginning. The beginning of a story is usually when we find out what the problem is. Then the series of events are the things that happen after we know what the problem is, but before the problem is solved. The high point of a story is something we talked about in our last lesson. So the high point of the story is an exciting part. It's usually when we are almost to the end of the story, we are almost to the conclusion and the solution, and it is the most exciting part of the story. And then the ending of a story is usually the solution. The problem is solved, something changes, someone may make a decision, and we have the ending of our fiction story. So we are learning that stories have a beginning, a series of events, a high point, and an ending, which is the solution. So let's take a look at one of the stories that most of us have read this year. So we're looking at the story called A Weekend with Wendell. So up here at the top, we have the problem or the beginning of the story written in blue. So it says, Wendell is bossy and mean, and Sophie doesn't like that. So that's the problem. That's what happened at the beginning of the story. In red is the series of events that happened after we realized what the problem was. A series of events are just things that happen in order. So the series of events in this case were that Wendell makes up rules for the games. They play house, and Wendell's the mother, the father, and children. Sophie is the dog. So there were other things that we could have included for a series of events. But the person who wrote this, these are the events that they chose to include for the series of events section of this story structure. Written in green is the high point. Remember, the high point is the exciting part, the climax of the story. So in A Weekend with Wendell, the high point was Wendell gives her, Sophie, a new hairdo with shaving cream. Sophie sprays Wendell with the hose. So that's kind of the most exciting part. It's the climax of the story, and then we're getting very close to the solution. So the solution is written here in orange. Wendell and Sophie learn how to get along as friends. So that's how the story ends. That's the solution. We see that they end up being friends, and they actually really enjoy spending time with each other. So this is an example from books that we've been reading about the problem, the series of events, the high point, and the solution in a story. And like I said, my friends, this is called the structure of the story, and many, many fiction stories follow this structure. So in a moment, we're going to take a look at another story that many of you know, and we are going to practice writing our own story structure map.
All right, so yesterday, or when you watched the past video, we talked about the story of Cinderella, a classic fiction story that many of us know the plot and the story of. So we are going to work on filling out this story map and showing the structure of the story of Cinderella. So this story map, which you guys also have, says first, next, then, and last. Those are really great words to use when describing how a story takes place and in which order. I've added some of the words that we've been working on right here. So first is the same as the beginning, or when the problem is stated. The next box is for the series of events that happen after the problem is found out. Then is the high point or the climax of the story. And then last is the solution. Another word for that is resolution, or the ending of a story. So if we think about the story of Cinderella, the first thing that we find out is that she lives with her stepmom and stepsisters. We also learn that they make her wear rags and do hard work. So now we've got the problem of the story set up here. So next is the series of events that happen after. So there's an invitation to the ball that arrives at their house. Then the stepsisters and the stepmother go to the ball. But they tell Cinderella she can't go. Then someone special appears. The godmother, fairy godmother, appears. She comes and she helps Cinderella get ready for the ball. Then Cinderella loses her slipper. And we're getting now to the high point or the climax of the story. So the prince is looking for whose slipper it is, looking to see who fits the slipper. And those crazy stepsisters try to force their feet in, but as many of us know, because we know this story, the shoe fits Cinderella. So this is the most exciting part, the high point of the story. So then we get to the solution, the resolution, and the ending. Cinderella and the prince, they get married. And live happily ever after. So, we've identified the beginning/problem of the story. We've listed some of the events that happened after the problem was revealed. We've got the high point or the climax of the story when the shoe finally fits Cinderella's foot. And then Cinderella and the prince get married and live happily ever after. Now, this is just one example of a story map. Every story map, every structure of a fiction story may look a little bit differently. Happily ever after might not be the solution, the resolution, or the ending to the story. So second graders, I have a challenge for you. I want you to find this sheet, put it into a sheet protector, and fill out this story map based on a story that you've read. I want you to practice identifying the beginning, the series of events, the high points, and the resolution. Something else that you could do in the extra space that's left is draw a quick picture. You could draw a quick sketch explaining what's happened first, next, then, and last. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this mini lesson and that you are ready to try this on your own. I will talk to you guys soon. Happy reading!